Daredevil's last episode aired on October 19th in 2018, which concluded the show's third and final season. Daredevil is my favorite superhero movie or TV show. The show is so good, and it is a tragedy that it ended, and I would love a fourth season as long as they did it right. Season 3 did a fantastic job at setting up a fourth season, since while writing and filming Season 3, they did not know it would be their last. Thankfully, the Season 3 finale is really good, and it works very well as a series finale. Although I love it, I believe there is one thing they could have done to make this finale, and one scene specifically, even better. In this video, I would like to go over a missed opportunity in Season 3, and then discuss why I love this show so much, and give my thoughts on how we can be incorporated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and what I would want a Season 4 to look like. Before I get into that, please remember to like and subscribe, and comment what movie or TV show we should discuss next. Also, this video will contain spoilers for the Daredevil TV series, so if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it on Netflix. Before I get into the missed opportunity, I would like to say that I think they would have done this if they knew that they weren't getting another season. Throughout the season, I really thought they were setting this up, and with a few minor tweaks to the beginning of the season, I think it would have worked really well. To sum it up, I think they should have killed Karen. Firstly, in the beginning of the season, I think they should have done more to establish Matt's romantic interest in Karen. They did hint at it, but I think they really should have gone for it and have it be a major plot point. However, I think Matt should be too scared to tell her, because he is worried that if a villain finds out his identity, they will target Karen to get back at him. Eventually, he does tell Karen, and she reciprocates his feelings, and they kiss for the first time. Then, the episode Karen happens. This episode would take place right after they kiss, and in this episode, in addition to Bullseye going to the church, so does Fisk, with one goal in mind. He wants to break Matt, and he plans to do that by killing Karen. He thinks this will finally push Matt over the line and get him to finally break. Then, after Bullseye kills Father Lantom, Fisk kills Karen. I was never a big fan of Karen as a character, especially in Season 1. However, I finally started to tolerate her in this episode, which is a shame considering there are only a few more episodes after this. This episode has some great flashbacks with her, and it finally made me like her as a character. So, the reason I think they should have done this comes in the season finale. This episode is one of my favorite episodes in any TV show. This episode also contains one of the best scenes ever. It is the three-way fight between Matt and Fisk and Dex, with Vanessa watching. I could and I might make a video discussing why this scene is so great, but it is obvious why it's so great. Anybody who watches it would immediately realize what makes this scene so perfect. What I want to talk about is why Karen being killed by Fisk would have made it even better. Before I get into it, let me discuss what happens in this scene. Fisk and Vanessa have just gotten married. Dex has just come to kill Fisk, Matt has come to kill Fisk, and Fisk wants to protect Vanessa. Then a huge three-way fight ensues. After Fisk nearly kills Dex, Matt is on the verge of killing Fisk. Then he makes the heroic decision and doesn't kill him. I'd like to point out that, like in the rest of the show, Charlie Cox is fantastic. In my opinion, he has the best performance as a superhero, ever. I know that is bold, but I can't think of anyone who fleshed out their character more and gave them more humanity. This has nothing to do with other superhero performances. There have been many of really great ones who really do rival this. But this is much more about how perfect Charlie Cox was, and he definitely does benefit from having many seasons to flesh out this character. Leaving that aside for now, Matt doesn't kill Fisk. He makes the heroic decision and he doesn't kill him. He won't let Fisk change who he is, and he won't let Fisk corrupt him. Imagine how much more heroic Matt's not killing Fisk would be if this was the man who killed his girlfriend, who he had just started a relationship with. This would have made this moment so much more meaningful and would make Matt far more heroic than he already was. I really think this would have worked and made a perfect scene even better. I would now like to discuss why Daredevil was so great and so special, and why it needs a Season 4 and what a Season 4 would look like. As I said before, Daredevil is my favorite superhero movie or TV show, and would probably even have a chance at being my favorite show if it had one or two more seasons, which were even close to as good as the first three. It was so special because it presented very flawed characters in a very realistic way, especially Matt. He is not a perfect person. Far from it, actually. Even in the final season, he isn't. He is manipulating his friends and pushing them away, and he puts himself in danger, seemingly on purpose. The acting is also great. I've already talked about how great Charlie Cox was, but Vincent D'Onofrio was just as good. He is easily one of my favorite villains of all time, in anything. He brought so much depth and complexity to such an evil character, and he really made you feel for him. A great example is in the Season 1 finale. Matt is on the verge of killing Fisk. Even though I should be rooting for Matt whenever he is beating Fisk, I feel sad for him. A lot of that is due to Vincent D'Onofrio and the great flashback scenes that happened before it. And then when Fisk is beating Matt, I go back to hating Fisk. They go back and forth on who's winning this fight several times, and I feel bad for whoever's getting beaten because of how great the actors were at acting during fight scenes. They make you feel for these characters so much, even when they are beating each other senseless. The show also used costumes to tell a story and show where the characters are emotionally, unlike many other superhero movies, and they really only use the costumes to make it look cooler and to make it look more memorable. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it makes it feel less realistic and grounded. They never had Matt in his costume for no reason. They would only have him in it when the city liked Daredevil and would give him a tactical advantage. However, in Season 3, when the city hated the Daredevil persona, he never puts it on at all, because it would make no sense for him. Daredevil also gave us Jon Bernthal's Punisher. I loved him in The Walking Dead as Shane, but it is clear to me that Frank Castle is the role he was born to play. He also has a great spin-off show, which I recommend watching, but his scenes with Charlie Cox in this show are better than anything that they did on that show, and that's just because they don't have Charlie Cox. They are both great actors, and their scenes are so well written. They have an incredible scene on a rooftop just talking about why Daredevil doesn't kill and why Frank does. The scene is so impactful and so deep, and it never feels over the top or cheesy. It is so well acted and thought-provoking. The writers did such a great job in making you understand both ideas and making you think. They don't present either as being right or wrong, at least not enough that agreeing with Frank is objectively wrong in their eyes, and while it is clear that they think you should be on Matt's side, and they show you that you should be on Matt's side, they also explain to you Frank's side enough that it's reasonable to agree with him. There are many other reasons why the Daredevil TV show is incredible, but now I would like to get into what I would want in a potential Season 4. Firstly, it would be awesome if he has a cameo in really any MCU project, but a few that come to mind immediately are Spider-Man 3, because of how his relationship with him in the comics, She-Hulk, because she's also a lawyer, and Kevin Feige did kind of hint at it, and also Hawkeye, because I've heard some interesting ideas on what that could do, and it sounds very cool, or really anything else, but those three specifically, before they do a Season 4. But if not, here's how I'd want it to go. Firstly, do it on Disney+, but keep the R rating. I really would want a PG-13 rating because I don't want to water down Daredevil. I want to see the Daredevil we've seen before, and I really want to avoid as many changes as possible. It's possible a PG-13 one would work, but I feel like I don't want to risk that because I really want this to work. Secondly, be willing to shorten it from 13 episodes. Many of the Marvel Netflix shows struggled with having filler because they had to fill the 13-episode quota. If you have 13 episodes of material, do it. If you don't have it, then be willing to do less. And if you have more, be willing to do that. I don't mind 15 episodes, but only do that if you have the amount of material to cover that. I would also want this to be in the MCU, but don't go crazy on the references. Address the blip and who was dusted, and then move on. You can have a cameo from someone if you want, like maybe Spider-Man for a minute, or Hawkeye for an episode, but in general, I want to stay focused on our characters. Also, please bring back Punisher. I really need more of Jon Bernthal as him. Just keep the entire cast. I would want Dex to be the main villain, because they were setting him up very well, but also the occasional appearance of Fisk, as Vincent D'Onofrio playing him, just like in Season 2. The biggest mistake Marvel could do is to bring in Daredevil, Kingpin, and Punisher, and not bring the actors back. I'd rather not have it at all. I can't imagine anyone else playing those characters, so it isn't worth doing it if you won't bring them back. And I think they would be willing to, since I've heard that they're going to bring back Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool for Deadpool 3, which will be in the MCU. So I think that they would be willing to bring these people back, and I would want it to be a continuation of their story, not a reboot, just like I hope Deadpool 3 is not a reboot, rather a continuation of his story. So those are my thoughts on Daredevil, and I also gave one huge missed opportunity in Season 3. Please comment what you thought on the show and what you want Marvel to do with the characters from the Netflix shows.